Check out FlipsideGaming.com for all your gaming needs. Use the promo code HEROES to save 10% on all orders over $10 and support the channel at the same time. Hey there, this is John from Heroes and Legends. I'm back again. We got more Dominaria preview cards to talk about. So I did a video earlier today showcasing 4 cards that Wizards revealed. Since then, though, they put out some more previews. We got to look at all of the Planeswalker deck exclusive cards and a few other cards that are from the set proper. So we're going to talk about them now. Without any further preamble, let's get right into it. We'll begin by looking at the packaging for the 2 Planeswalker decks. Now, we know a little bit about Chandrabolt Pyromancer thanks to Wizards' accidental preview a couple weeks ago, but we don't know much about Teferi Timebender. So we're going to look at the 2 of these cards as well as the other exclusive cards in just a second. But before we do, I just wanted to point out the art for these 2 Planeswalkers. I've been saying it for the last couple weeks. Wizards is knocking it out of the park with the art in this set, and these Planeswalkers are no exception. Alright, let's move on to the cards in the Teferi deck. And first off, before we talk about Teferi himself, just a disclaimer for those who aren't aware. These cards that we're going to talk about next can only be found in these Planeswalker decks. They will not be in packs of Dominaria. However, they are still standard legal. Usually, though, they are costed in such a way that you probably don't want to play them in standard competitive formats, but they can still be good casual cards. So let's look at Teferi Timebender. He's going to cost a blue, a white, and 4 legendary Planeswalker, Teferi Mythic, 5 loyalty, +2, untap up to 1 target artifact or creature, -3, you gain 2 life and draw 2 cards, -9, take an extra turn after this one. Now, like I said at the setup, I mean, this isn't something I'm going to try to play in constructed standard or anything like that. I do think the card has some interesting abilities, though, for casual games, whether that's playing it out of the box against the other deck, or a commander deck, or a cube, for example. And you don't want to underestimate untapping a creature or an artifact that has a strong ability attached to it, number 1. Number 2, there's nothing wrong with drawing a couple cards right when this enters the battlefield. And taking an extra turn is always good, although I will say if you can -9 this thing, you probably are already winning the game. It's probably a win more. Maybe that extra turn just closes out the game for you, if nothing else, right? So that might seem a little better than it really is in practice, but just generally, I think it's a decent card. I mean, imagine playing this in a commander deck where, say, Brago King Eternal's your commander, maybe have Deep Glow Skate in there too. That could be a good time. Maybe not for your opponents, but for you, no doubt. So there are some really cool things you can do with the card in certain formats. Another thing I wanted to quickly mention, even though sometimes Planeswalker decks are thought of as beginner products, I like the fact that this card, as well as some of the others today, have open-ended targeting. In other words, they are not forcing you to just target your things with potentially beneficial abilities, or just your opponent's things, or your opponent with damage, at least in some of the examples you'll see in just a moment. I like that kind of open design. It can lead to the occasional creative play, and makes things a little more interesting in multiplayer situations. Nyambi, Faithful Healer. A blue, a white, and 1 legendary creature human cleric. This one's a rare 2/2. When this enters the battlefield, you may search your library and or graveyard for a card named Teferi Timebender. Reveal it, put it into your hand. If you search your library, this way shuffle. So these decks always have a way for you to find your Planeswalker, whether it's in the deck or in the graveyard. And that's really because the most fun you have with these decks, honestly, is when you're playing with the Planeswalkers. So they try to give you another way to do that. Notice this is a tutor for the Planeswalker, but it is that specific one. You have to get Teferi Timebender. Other than that, this is just a 2/2 creature. I mean, nothing crazy going on here. Nothing really to speak of. It's all about tutoring up that Planeswalker. If you have the Planeswalker in your deck, then yeah, there's no reason not to run this. If you don't, you're definitely not going to run it. I will say I do like the flavor text, though. My father will be happy to see you. Teferi's Sentinel. Okay, this costs 5. Artifact, creature, golem. 2/6. This one's an uncommon. As long as you control a Teferi Planeswalker, this time it can be anyone, then this will get +4/+0. So again, for that casting cost, not really where you want to be typically, but yeah, casual play, again, out of the box, this can be just fine. Temporal Machinations. This one's a common. It's a blue and 2 sorcery. Return target creature to its owner's hand. If you control an artifact, draw a card. So, sorcery speed, creature bounce, where maybe it replaces itself some of the time. Not too exciting. But again, it's very serviceable if you're just playing this out of the box. Meandering River. So this is a common. Of course, it's a reprint. And this is just, it comes into play land tap to try to smooth out the deck a little bit. But here's what I like most about it. Check out the art. And now, if you remember this card from Time Spiral, Calciform Pools, it's a callback to that art. It's kind of like it's healed over time. And I think that's actually kind of awesome that they did that. So I didn't really expect to see that from just the tap land that is just kind of thrown in here because it needs to be there. But they actually took the time to put a piece of art that calls back to an older card. That's awesome. All right, let's move on to the Chandra deck. Bold Pyromancer, of course, is the Chandra here. 2 red and 4, Legendary Planeswalker, Chandra Mythic, 5 loyalty, +1, add 2 red mana, and this will deal 2 damage to target player, -3. This deals 3 damage to target creature or planeswalker, -7, deals 10 damage to target player, and each creature and planeswalker they control. So again, another card that's not going to shake up the standard format or anything, but is it a serviceable casual card? Yeah, sure it is. I mean, I don't mind ramping with a couple extra red mana for the +1 there. That's pretty cool. Nothing wrong with direct damage. I'll take those options any day of the week. So in casual games, this is just fine for you. Chandra's Outburst. 2 red and 3, sorcery. This one's a rare. It will deal 4 damage to target player or planeswalker. Search your library and or graveyard for a card named Chandra, Bold Pyromancer, reveal it, put it into your hands if you searched your library shuffle. So I kind of wish it was any target, not just player or planeswalker, but I guess it is what it is. It's really more about tutoring up Chandra than anything. And again, this is that particular Chandra is the only one you can grab with this. Karplusan Hound. This is a red and 3, Hound, uncommon, 3/3. Whenever this attacks, if you control a Chandra planeswalker, this time anyone, this creature deals 2 damage to any target. You know, just on the surface, that's not bad. A 3/3 that attacks in. If you have another Chandra in play, it's also throwing 2 damage at another target. That could be the opponent or a creature that could be in the way. That's not bad. However, it costs 4, and that's a little expensive again when you start talking about competitive formats, but casually, another fine card. Next is Pyromantic Pilgrim, red and 2, uncommon human wizard 3/1 with haste. Beautiful art on this card too. So there's a lot of great aggressive red cards right now in Standard. This is not going to be able to break into that very exclusive club right now, unfortunately. But again, it's serviceable for casual games. And finally, our last Planeswalker deck exclusive card is the card you're going to find for mana fixing. It's Timber Gorge. Again, another reprint. This one is a common. All right, let's move on to some cards that are actually in the regular Dominaria set, so you will find these in packs. This one is Fall of the Thran. It costs a white and 5. It's a saga. This one's a rare. Number 1, destroy all lands. 2 and 3, each player returns 2 land cards from their graveyard to the battlefield. So first off, blowing up all the lands is a powerful effect. Now granted, this isn't as good as, say, Armageddon, which is cheaper. It's only a white and 3, and also there's no way to get your lands back, where this is going to start giving back if it stays on the battlefield for the second and the third turn. So by giving back lands not only to yourself and to your opponent, it almost feels like you have a small window to really take advantage of the time that your opponents are going to be starved on mana, right? So that's kind of the give and take of this card. Not that that's a bad thing, because there's a lot of ways to exploit that still. First off, let's talk about limited. Do you play this in a limited matchup? Draft and Sealed? Maybe. It just depends on your deck. Here's the deck I would play it in, though. If I have a lot of small creatures, maybe I'm in Selesnya colors and I happen to pick up some Llanowar Elves, because that's a way for me to stay on my mana even when I take my opponents off, or at least a little bit of my mana. But if I have ways to get mana from other cards that are not lands, and I have a lot of small creatures where I think I could get a quick start and just jump ahead of my opponent, maybe ramp into this thing on an earlier turn than turn 6, I got a chance that this could be a game-winning card from time to time, but it is kind of high variance too, right? There's times where it's not going to be good for you. When you're behind, this is a bad effect to draw because you're the one that needs the mana to catch up, not the opponent. But when you're ahead, this sometimes can slam the door on games, this type of effect. So keep that in mind. Know your deck well. It's not going to be for every build, but there's going to be times where you'll play it and it could be really good for you. So what about Standard? Could it see play there? Again, kind of like Limited. Under certain circumstances, maybe. I can't think of a deck right now that just wants this to slide right into it, but there could be a new deck that forms with Dominaria once we see the full set. Again, maybe it is like a Selesnya aggro build, a lot of small creatures, kind of a weenie build that has ways to get mana that's not just from lands, again, your Llanowar Elves or what have you. And then especially if you could play this, maybe have a way to get rid of it, like a Naturalize effect, then all of a sudden this card actually becomes even more powerful. And you do have to remember, Ramanap Excavator is still in the format and could be great with this card under the right circumstances. So yeah, this is something that could happen. Now, I know I'm stretching a little bit. We have to see the rest of the set before I'd feel comfortable saying that that is a deck that will exist, but it's at least a possibility to think about. Also, too, outside of that, think about some of your casual formats like Commander. You're going to find opportunities to use cards like Scavenging Ooze with this. Agent of Erebos would be really fun. Okay, maybe not for your opponents, but for you. But there's a lot of interesting combos out there with this card. Also, last thing I want to say about it is check out the art on this. Another really subtle callback, but if you look at the figures at the bottom of the card, they kind of look like some old Magic creatures. Phyrexian Bloodstock and Thran War Machine. So again, I really like the opportunities they've been finding to throw this nostalgia in there really subtly sometimes. Alright, next is History of Benalia. This is 2 white and 1. This one's a mythic. It's a saga. 1 and 2. Create a 2/2 white knight creature token with vigilance. And 3 knights you control. Get +2/+1 till end of turn. So I'll be the first to admit, this isn't doing anything like crazy flashy that makes you think mythic. But efficiency-wise, I do feel like this is mythic. Because for 3 mana, even if only one thing happens, let's say you just get that number 1 effect and then this thing gets blown up or something. You got a 2/2 white knight creature token with vigilance for 3? I don't think that's bad, actually. That feels decent to me, and if it sticks around, you get a second one, and of course the third turn you have a potentially large turn. Even if you don't have a lot of other knights, you're still getting 8 power added to the battlefield for that turn. That's kind of amazing, and you get a permanent 4 power, 4/4 power toughness. Not bad for 3 mana, as a matter of fact, even though it is time-gated a little bit. Now, obviously, you want to play this with other knights, which begs the question, where does this make sense? Let's talk about limited first. I think this is a good card just generally, like probably first pickable in almost every pack. Even if you don't plan on playing with other knights, like this card alone is just a good card. If you have other knights, if you go ahead and draft that Orzhov black-white knight deck, yeah, this is going to be fantastic for you and could be game-ending in a case like that. It becomes that much better. Now for Standard, I have said before that I don't really think one set's going to come along and create a knight deck good enough to see Standard play. Because, I mean, the Ixalan block was trying to pour merfolk, vampire, pirates, and dinosaurs into the environment for months now. And they still didn't really get there to be the top-tier decks like a lot of people thought they would. So one set coming along throwing knights in the mix, I don't really see it happening. But to be fair, we have a lot more cards to see, and it's probably a little too early to make that call. So is this okay even if you don't have a dedicated knight deck? It might be. Again, let's talk about that Selesnya deck. It could be running some knight creatures in there, and if that's the case, yeah, maybe this does see Standard play. Again, a lot of speculation here. It's still early. We got a long way to go when it comes to preview cards and such. But at least this has potential because if nothing else, the power is behind it. And again, this is something I'd be happy to play casually to throw it in Commander. Maybe build yourself a Knight Commander deck. Could be great there. Alright, well, those are the cards for the second half of the day. I'm sure we'll be back tomorrow with some more preview cards, so I'll see you then. Until next time, hey, thanks for watching. Please remember to like, subscribe. Have a great day. Hey, thanks for watching. This video is made possible by the generous support of viewers like you on Patreon. Check out the description below for links to our Patreon page as well as our Amazon affiliate store, where a small percentage of all sales will also help support the channel. Finally, if you haven't had a chance yet to subscribe, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any new videos on Heroes and Legends. Talk to you again soon, and have a great day.